Welcome to Sense and Sika, the podcast, episode 2 of season 2. Today's episode, we are going deeper into the wedding tales. This episode, we are focusing on the unseen side of wedding planning. You may have planned and budgeted for the caterer, the decor, and all of the in-betweens, but you didn't budget emotionally for the drama. The bridesmaid fallouts, the family pressure and stress, and all of the unseen emotional labor in between. If you are dating, wedding planning, or a newlywed, this episode is dedicated to you. I see you, I've been there, and not enough people talk about it. So let's get into it. As I was reflecting on my anniversary, I got married in 2024. I was just thinking about the wedding season and about how my husband and I always say that we would never, ever relive wedding planning season. Once it was done and dusted, we just moved on with our life because the level of stress that it puts you through is unprecedented. So as normal, I was just going to bed, getting ready, and I just decided to take out my phone and make a little TikTok documenting and recalling some of the drama that Accra wedding vendors have put me and my husband through when we were planning our wedding in 2024. I post a little video, I go to bed. The next morning, I wake up to chaos of comments, notifications. The video I made has gone semi-viral within Accra and the diaspora. So now I have people in Canada sending me my video. It's on Twitter trending. It's on Instagram. I'm getting floods of DMs and comments. So let me go through the video comments right now and just detail some of the wedding stress and drama that people go through. Keep in mind, what my husband and I went through was not even that crazy. We had a very stress-free wedding by all sense of the term, and especially in compared to what people are going through. But let's get into it. Number 1, 4 years after my wedding, I'm yet to receive my wedding videos. They only sent the trailer. What do you mean? Can you imagine when the biggest day of your life and you only have your wedding trailer? Huh? Unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. Another one said, I was originally planning my wedding in Ghana and I literally canceled it all the month before because all of the vendors were ignoring me and the stress was too much. I always like to tell people that Ghanaians feel like just basic communication is over communication. So they will not talk to you until the last week of the wedding, but it's very stressful for people of the diaspora to deal with that because you don't have boots on the ground. You need help and you need your vendors to inform you of what's going on, what they're procuring for your event. And they just went silent. So I responded to that comment and I told her, you know what? I understand. It's good you canceled. You saved yourself a lot of stress because so you're ghosting the girl when she finally lands in Accra. Is she going to find out that all of the things that she's planned for her wedding are looking completely different? That one will just put you in the hospital. So yeah, girl, cancel. Good for you. Okay. Another one said that they have zero accountability. They meaning Accra wedding dress designers. As a designer myself, why would you agree to make someone's dress if you know you're already overwhelmed? My sister didn't get her wedding dress delivered until she was literally in the church washroom crying and about to walk down the aisle. Needless to say, her pictures are all messed up. That is one thing that you can never get your wedding experience back again. So imagine what should be the happiest, one of the best days of your life. You are crying in the church bathroom because you don't have your dress. I don't know, my people. And lastly, one is about the videographer. This person said that we booked for a drone package. The videographer came to tell us the day of that his drone was faulty. I want to cry all over again because we really plan to have an amazing venue to capture the drone shots. So you're telling me that you booked a package that included a drone for photography. Why is it that there are so many comments under my video about photographers having faulty drones? We need to investigate Accra wedding photographers, because you people, you love tacking on a drone package knowing that people really want a drone shots, and then the day before you start doing higi haga, oh, that drone is faulty, I don't have a drone, oh, that drone is broken. And clearly I'm very upset about this because the same thing happened to my husband and I. We added a drone shot package. There was no drone. At least she got an explanation. We didn't get any explanation. He just said that, oh yeah, we don't have it. So needless to say, we ended up not paying him for that additional fee. And he had the nerve to be going back and forth with us, upset that we didn't pay the full cost of the package, but you didn't uphold your portion of the deal either. Accra vendors, I have almost 2,000 comments of people just bearing their heart and telling me all of their wedding chaos and stressors. And it's something that a lot of people don't talk about, largely because you kind of want to move on and start your married life and forget about all of the bad stuff and drama that happened along the way. And that is understandable. So I can see how it's very isolating and couples feel like they're the only ones going through these types of drama and stress in the wedding planning process. But I assure you, a lot of things come up in the wedding planning process. People can surprise you in a good way and a bad way. They can disappoint you. Your vendors can add a level of stress to your life that you cannot even imagine, especially when it comes to your outfits, your wedding dresses, your makeup, your hair, and your pictures. To this day, I have friends that don't have any wedding photos. What do you do with that information? Like, you don't have a picture of your wedding. So let's get into some of the unseen points of wedding planning that feel like it's only happening to you, but I'm bringing them to the surface and creating this space so that you people know that you're not alone and you're not the first to have experienced it. Number one, which I felt the most, is the unseen mental load of wedding planning. Wedding planning is literally a full-time job, but you have to do it as if it's a part-time job because you're probably working full-time for an actual job. People are constantly asking you about your opinion, what you feel like you should do for decor, or what your kente should look like, or what your wedding dress shape should look like. And you have to answer so many questions that you've never been exposed to or you've never thought of before. And it gets exhausting. On top of that, it puts a strain on your relationship at times because it feels like you're forced to only talk about wedding planning things, as if you don't just like each other and you just want to have a conversation with your significant other. But now every conversation becomes something wedding related because your mom is asking you about the wedding. Your aunt is asking you about the wedding. Maybe a vendor has reached out to your husband about a wedding, so you need to discuss before you give feedback. It just becomes so all-consuming and exhausting because you're constantly thinking about something wedding-related. That took a big toll on me, and in hindsight, I feel like I was snappy with people, especially towards the end, because I just didn't want to hear the thing again. At a certain point, I was like, do whatever you want. Stop asking me questions. I don't care. Whatever is going to happen on the day of is going to happen. I cannot make any more decisions. I had decision fatigue. I felt like my payments have been made. Why are you still asking me questions? I'm hiring you to do a job. You do it. And then on the family side, your family also wants to make sure that everything is in order. Things are looking good. So there were a lot of conversations about what should we wear? What are the colors? I never considered that people wanted a color theme for my wedding. It just wasn't a thought in my mind. So now I felt like, oh shoot, I have to give them something to work with. So then I had to start looking at what the color palette should be. things that were just unprecedented. So it really became a taxing 6-7 months of our life just in the throes of wedding planning, because not a day goes by where you're not talking about something wedding related for an extended amount of time. Mind you, this is eating into my free time. I could be watching a show. A show is reminding me, hey, I didn't do this for the wedding. Let me pause the show and go and sort that thing out. It just becomes so all consuming. You can't wait to see the end of wedding planning. You're just excited to get married just so you can stop talking about anything wedding related for the last 6-7 months. Number 2 is around family dynamics and a lot of unspoken cultural rules. Wedding planning puts a level of stress on you from the aspect of family because all of your decisions now send a message, right? The seating chart sends a message. Who sits where is also sending a message. Who is sitting by your side is also sending a message. And these are things that you have to consider, especially from our Ghanaian cultural background, that you don't want your wedding to cause any additional drama than it already has. So you might be thinking that all of my family should just sort themselves out and sit on the right side of the traditional marriage ceremony. Meanwhile, your mother has calculated that no, this auntie has to sit here specifically and nobody can sit in her seats. And then your uncle from the hometown can only sit to the left of her because that's how it should be. So nobody can sit in these 2 seats. And then to the back of them has to be so-and-so because you can't put that family member at the back row. And it just causes all of this extra layers of unspoken family drama that also needs to be sorted out, that it feels like you're helpless in the situation. Your hands are tied. All you know is that you've allocated and made provisions for your family, and now your parents or the people who are representing you now just have to figure out how they're doing their thing. But you don't want a situation where it also reflects badly on you if things don't go as planned, right? So it feels like if you do, you're wrong. If you don't do, you're also wrong. Weddings can also bring up a lot of family tension because, as I mentioned in Wedding Tales episode 1, there are a lot of unsaid expectations. Maybe your mom always planned to do something special for you on the morning of your wedding, but then because of traffic and delays or just logistics, she wasn't able to have that moment with you. Right? So now she's a little bit sad the day of your wedding and you can't figure out why. And these things come out after the fact. But because she never told you that she wanted to do something special or have that moment with you the day of your wedding, you also didn't make provisions for that. You didn't know. So you were doing your hair, your makeup, your nails, having fun with your bridesmaids, but then your mom's feelings were hurt, right? And also consider that these are things that you can't redo. There's no redo. It's done. What's done is done, and it will always have that lasting effect and memory. So weddings can bring up a lot of awkward situations, a lot of pressure, a lot of feelings of pressure in the sense of you're now expected to do things that nobody ever had a conversation with you about. And it can be very mentally taxing, especially if somebody has voiced their opinion to you about one thing. Then your mind starts racing about, oh my gosh, does my mom think this? Does my dad think this? What about my auntie? And it just can go crazy if you don't learn how to just focus on you and your spouse and the things that are controllable. Another thing that comes up during the wedding season process is the friendship fallouts and the drama. I'll preface this by saying I didn't have that experience. All of my friends showed up for me. They flew out from the US for me. Like, I love them dearly. I will always have such an amazing wedding experience in terms of the friendship side of things. But now when you get married and you talk to a lot of other couples, there's so many things that come up during wedding planning. Friends disappointing you. I've had friends whose maid of honor called their now husband to tell them that I don't think that she's the best fit for you, but do what you want to do. All types of things go on during wedding planning, and it's just very jarring to see. Prior to getting married, I was also part of a lot of people's weddings. So I've also seen how people who the bride may consider close friends are talking about them behind their back, or are giving them dirty looks, or just not really engaging or being helpful. And it's extremely painful as the couple who's getting married to watch your friends behave in a way that is different from your expectations, because you know how you would show up for them. And wedding season can really expose a lot of people's true intentions and character towards you. And it's a very jarring time. So you're going through a lot of friendship drama and breakup at the same time as answering a million questions about wedding vendors and payments and all of the additional details. And it sometimes can be overwhelming. You don't know how to gauge the people who are coming towards you. I think a lot of the pain that happens around wedding planning also resurfaces after the wedding is done. And either the people who truly love you and are close to you are telling you how other people have acted in the course of your wedding. I've been in situations where the maid of honor was not forthcoming or helpful at all when it comes to planning the bride's bridal party or the bridal shower. So the job really fell on other people to fill in the gaps and make it an amazing day for her. And she didn't miss a beat, but she found out after the fact that the person who was supposed to do all the planning for her just didn't care, was having a weird attitude, didn't really support her decision. It was always making funny remarks about her. And it's hard to hear. So being on the other side of wedding planning has also opened my eyes to how strange people act around wedding seasons. And I think there's a lot of different reasons. People might feel like, hey, I was supposed to be married before you. And that causes a lot of tension and discomfort. I think sometimes it's situations of putting people in a position in your life higher than they actually are. And now they're showing you that, sister, I didn't really rate you like that. I don't know why you've made me the maid of honor or one of your bridesmaids, but I don't even want to be here right now. And you get to a point of wedding planning and going through these fallouts and all of this drama that you realize, like, wow, am I going crazy, or these things are really happening to me? And this is why you see on the other side of people being newlyweds and getting married, you hear a lot of, oh, people switch up when you get married. Oh, people got married and they forgot all of their friends. No, sometimes people show their full nyash during the wedding planning season. You don't even have a choice but to stop being friends or to end that relationship. What do you mean you are my maid of honor and you're calling my husband to tell him that I have attitude issues and he's not a good fit for me? Can you imagine? You violated doing that even if they were just dating, but this is your husband and you're calling him the night before the wedding to tell him this. What are you trying to do? This is when people start saying, hey, are you a witch? Because please explain what would possess you to do that, to potentially ruin your friend's relationship. I've also been in a wedding whereby the groomsmen, the men go through it too. Maybe I'll have them share their side of the story. But I've been in a wedding where the groomsman was supposed to make a payment on behalf of the couple because that's bestie, right? I can trust you with the financials. I can trust you with money to finish paying out some of the vendors while they go on the honeymoon. The groomsman never paid the vendor the remaining $10,000 or so. He pocketed the money. The money disappeared. So the couple comes back from the honeymoon and the vendor is blowing up their phone talking about he's about to talk to a lawyer. It's about to become a lawsuit issue. What are you talking about? First of all, you just left your honeymoon. You know that you've had your groomsmen handle the finances. And now the vendor is talking about, I'm going to sue you. Can you imagine the level of stress that puts you and your husband under? Because one, you know that you've closed the wedding stuff from your mind. You're enjoying your vacation. You're coming back home to start off your married life, only to be dragged back into wedding drama, figuring out why the payment wasn't made, figuring out that the person who is supposed to be so near and dear and close to you didn't make the payment, and that the groomsman had no proper response or explanation as to why he chopped the money. He was just like, yeah, man, I fell on hard times. You cannot make these things up. So now they have a deficit of $10,000. They have to figure out how to pay this man, because on paper, they are the ones that are in the wrong, 100%. The wedding vendor doesn't care about who you gave the money to so-and-so and he didn't. Where's my money? Where's the money at? We made an agreement between the couple and the vendor. You didn't pay the balance. So now I'm involving a lawyer because we also signed a contract. These are the things people go through. And you want somebody to still be friends and kiki kaka after the wedding? No, that's not how these things work. So a lot of times married couples are keeping quiet about the stressors of marriage planning and wedding planning specifically, because some of the memories are just too painful to think of again. I think the video that I made is a good example of that, just on the vendor side of things. Imagine the people who are nearest and dearest to you, who you love dearly, crossing you, doing things that put you in compromised situations, doing things to try and ruin your relationship. It's almost too much to handle. Like, how do you process this information? I just have to move on with my life and cut you out of it. Because how do you reconcile that? I truly don't know. It wasn't my experience, but I know what people have gone through, and people are going through things. So please consider, before you start bashing people on the internet or talking trash with your friends about how somebody switched up after marriage, consider that they're not telling you the full story, because it may be too painful for them to recall and to recollect what actually went down during their wedding process. Who pained them? Who hurt their feelings beyond repair? Who was trying to ruin their relationship? Who didn't show up for them? I've learned that sometimes the easiest way to move forward and have a good attitude is to just close that chapter and look forward. But there are people who have gone through wedding planning that are 5, 6, 7 years into marriage, and their wedding planning experience is still very painful and fresh for them. So have some grace, and it's one of those things that once you go through, it will really open your eyes to a lot of background drama. Another unspoken tip about wedding planning is to protect yourself and engage with vendor relationships. Sometimes when you're going into wedding planning, you may feel like you're in over your head and you just have to take the contract or the deals that are presented to you. But you don't have to do that. I have to give a shout out to my husband. He is a master negotiator. He made sure that we got all of our contracts in writing. That is very important. Make sure you have things in writing, down to start time, expectations on delivery and cost and payment terms. Please, if nothing else in this episode, listen to this portion. Make sure you negotiate to terms that are mutually beneficial for both you and the vendor. That saved us a lot of money, because on the day of our weddings, when a lot of the vendors were messing up or didn't come on time, we didn't give them the full contract payment, because part of the clauses we negotiated were that if they didn't fulfill their end, they're also not receiving the full payment. We also negotiated around the payment terms. A lot of them had crazy payment terms. They wanted upwards of 60 to 70% of a down payment for a job that has not yet been done, and a job that they're not doing for another few months. So we were able to negotiate with them to come down to 50 or even less, and that in the event that they would recoup their full amount when they delivered to us. So that is things like photography and videography. In the event of photography, we negotiated that contract, and it also helped us because Our videographer didn't come with his drone, and we got the drone package. So we didn't pay him in full for the negotiated price. And he couldn't argue because he also agreed that he didn't do what he said he was going to do. So please, I know it's overwhelming, it's tiring, but make sure you take the time to get things in writing and negotiate the contracts in a way that makes sense for both you and the vendor. Come to a good middle ground. And the most important thing on the wedding planning list is to communicate. Make sure you communicate with your partner about everything. Nothing is off the table. I always like to say that wedding planning is your relationship test final boss. If you can make it through wedding planning, I think you're going to have a solid relationship because it involves finances, emotions, family. You have to think about what you're doing after the wedding as well. So these are all aspects of your life that you need to be on the same page with your partner about, because at the end of the day, once the wedding is all said and done, it's just left with the two of you to be looking at yourselves. And you have to make sure that nothing is happening that the other person is unaware about. One thing that I noticed that came up a lot in wedding planning is that people don't expect you to be on the same page, and they don't expect the bride and the groom to communicate. So a vendor will give my husband one price, but then they'll tell me a different price, right? So we're coming at them from both angles. And they don't expect you to communicate, so they'll always give me the higher price and tell my husband something else. And it just caused a lot of side eyes, right? So we ended up, A, not going with vendors who were not truthful with us, and B, it just opened our eyes to show how people try to divide and conquer your relationship from the onset, early wedding planning. They'll try and triangulate you against each other, or you'll get a lot of, oh, but your husband said this. Oh, but your wife said that. But because we always communicate with each other, we were able to call people's bluff, and we had a wedding that we both enjoyed at the end of the day. So please communicate with your partners. Make sure you are advocating for yourself when it comes to the vendors. Be aware that sometimes friends and family issues come to the surface, and that there is going to be this unseen mental load of constantly wedding planning, but it gets better. It all comes to an end once you have your wedding and you're able to sail off into the sunset and start your married life. Let's get into the listener letter of the episode. Hi, Akuba. I'm a Nigerian British woman planning my wedding with my Jamaican American fiance. Last month, I cried at our venue tour because I realized I wasn't excited anymore. I was just surviving everyone else's feelings. My fiance thinks we haven't started the real planning. How do I communicate this without him feeling like he's not doing enough? Signed, Running on Empty in London. Yeah, this really touches on my last point, and I'm really sorry you're feeling burnt out about the wedding planning process. It will come to an end. It puts a strain on your relationship, but I think you have to lead with your feelings. Girl, that man loves you. You are his fiance. You have to explain to him that you're feeling just really overwhelmed and burnt out. And think about what you want to say to him first. Do you need him to emotionally support you more? Do you need him to step up more with the wedding planning process? Maybe you guys sit down and you have him take on some of the vendors and you focus on some of the other vendors. Like he does the videography, photography, the decor, he handles them, and you handle the caterers, the outfits. Think of how you want him to show up for you, and I'm sure that he will absolutely adjust. It's not fun getting to a point where you feel like you're doing the wedding for everyone else. So definitely reset, reel the process in, have a real conversation with your fiance and figure out how you both can share the load, and also involve your friends and family. You will be surprised how people are just waiting and willing to help. But because wedding stuff gets very touchy, sometimes people don't want to impose themselves. They're rather waiting for you to ask them, and they will help you. So don't feel like you have to do everything alone and by yourself. Allow people to help you. Reach out to your siblings, your friends, your family members, people who you trust to execute on your behalf, and share some of the load with them. Make sure you get to your wedding day and you enjoy yourself. Remember, if you are in the throes of wedding planning, the wedding will come and go. Things will come to a high point and then the wedding night will end. So have the end in mind. You don't want to go through wedding planning, go through all the drama and the headache and not enjoy your wedding. Or you don't want to go through wedding planning and feel like you're starting your marriage at odds with your partner. Make sure that you are both aligned throughout the wedding planning process and have the end in mind that this is all going to be done. We're going to have an amazing day, have a positive attitude, and enjoy your wedding. See you on the next one.